Hi guys, this is Lynn again. This is my second real video on this YouTube channel, and as you can see, we already upgraded something. We bought a microphone, so I hope this will make the sound a little bit better during our videos. Let me know in the comments if you like it or not. So, let's dive into today's video. Did you know that if you already know French, you already know about 40% of Spanish without studying a single word? Let me prove it to you. But first, you might ask yourself, how is this possible? Well, you might remember that Spanish is a Romance language alongside other languages like Italian, Portuguese, and French. And many of those Romance languages descend from Latin. So this means that the languages have many similarities. For example, they have gendered nouns, the verb conjugations can be the same, and also many words will be the same or will look similar. In this video, I want to dive deeper into the many similarities between French and Spanish, and let's start by looking at some similar words. So let's first look at some words that are almost identical. For example, in French we have important, and in Spanish we have importante. As you can hear, the pronunciation of these words vary, and this is actually the biggest difference between those words. Let's look at a second similar word. In French we have animal, in Spanish we have animal. It surprises me that even the pronunciation in these words is the exact same or almost the exact same. So this proves the point that so many words are like identical in both languages. Let's look at our third word, which is restaurant in French and restaurante and sorry, I was about to speak Spanish. Restaurante in Spanish, which is obviously restaurant. What also surprises me is that the three words we have looked at are also kind of the same in English, because an English speaker can perfectly understand the words. Let's go to our fourth word now. In French we have téléphone, and in Spanish we have teléfono. And there is just one last word that I would like to discuss, which is in French vérité, and in Spanish we have verdad. So from these examples, you can notice that many words are similar, some are even identical, even in the pronunciation. Okay, for the people who already know a bit of French but want to learn Spanish, I have some cool trick you can use. So in French, the words that end in ion, so ion, you can most of the time translate them by a Spanish word which also ends in ion. For example, in French we have the word génération, and in Spanish we have the word génération. Another example is in French we have communication, and in Spanish we have comunicación. Another thing I want to discuss for the people who already know French but want to learn some Spanish is that the words in French that end in te, you can translate them in Spanish words that end in dad. For example, the French word université we translate by universidad. As you can see, the te becomes dad. Another example, in French we have liberté, and in Spanish we have libertad. And the last example is, in French we have responsabilité, and in Spanish we have responsabilidad. Let's get to the fun part now. Let's try to make some sentences, or let's look at the similarities in sentences between French and Spanish. The first sentence is, I am a student. How would you translate that? In French, it would be, je suis étudiante, ou je suis étudiant, if I were a boy. And in Spanish, we have, yo soy estudiante, or we could simply say, soy estudiante. In this example, we can clearly see that the word order in sentences in French and in Spanish often is the same. Let's look at the second example. In French, we say c'est possible. In Spanish, we say es posible. So here again, we can see that the word order in these sentences is the exact same. And from these sentences, we can also see that there are some words that are similar. If you already know some French, then learning Spanish is probably way easier than you think. You just have to look at the similarities in both languages, and if you train your mind to think that it's easy by looking at similarities, you will learn way faster. If you would like to have another video on this French versus Spanish, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know in the comments what other surprising similarities you know between French and Spanish. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!